So what do you see when you look in the mirror? You know, if there's one thing I've learned from being a psychotherapist for all these years and working with so many hundreds and thousands of clients, is if you really want to have an impact on someone's life, you have to impact what they see in the mirror. You have to impact the way they see themselves, because that changes everything about what they do, how they do it, and why they do it. You know, just today I was reminded of this lesson by a teenage boy. Now, I've seen this teenager about 3 times. The very first time I'd seen him, he had just gotten out of several psychiatric hospitals, been struggling with all kinds of issues, huge problems in the dynamic between his mom and himself. It's alcohol abuse. I mean, I cannot tell you the list of things bothering this kid. He comes into therapy and he says to me, I don't think therapy works. I said, how come? And he said, because all I do is sit here and tell people my story. I just tell people my problems, and I don't think it gets me anywhere. So I start doing the type of therapy that I do, solution-focused brief therapy. I start asking him questions like, so if it had helped, if the previous therapy had helped, what differences would you like to notice in your life? The young man said, I want to be happy. Really, just a basic wish. This kid's 13, 14 years old. Just says, I want to be happy. I said, okay, if you work tomorrow and you are happy, first thing you'd notice, and we go through a very solution-focused, detailed description of the presence of this young man's happiness. He goes to school the following week, and for the first time in years, he gets all of the appropriate points on this point sheet. He's in a behavioral school where they count points and track behavior. And he was so proud of himself. He started describing himself as someone who's in control. I didn't know I can control my emotions like this, he would say. He said, this is such a different way for me to go to school because now I'm excited and I'm doing my homework and I'm paying more attention to the way the teacher's interacting with me. Maybe I'm intelligent, he said. Maybe I'm intelligent. Can you imagine the shift from thinking you are just loaded with problems and you come from this family of alcohol and drug abuse and the issues between you and your mom are never going to go away, to all of a sudden thinking, maybe I'm intelligent. Said if you noticed that in fact you were intelligent, what would you become? And he said, I don't know what I want to be, but I want to be something that makes a positive difference in the world, maybe work with computers. I'm really good with computers, but I've previously done bad things. Maybe I could use my powers for good, he said. So he goes to school focused on maybe I'm intelligent. If I am intelligent, maybe I can do this with it and I can become this computer thing and all this stuff. He came back to the next session, which was this morning, with a note from his computer teacher. A note from his computer teacher saying that I think you have the talent and abilities to be quite amazing in our field, blah, 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 and I hope you stick with it. And this little 14-year-old guy was so impacted by the presence of this note. And now when he views himself, he looks at himself as someone who can become something prominent, who can do all of these things, who can become someone who has a positive impact on the world. And it made me think back to the first time I met him, first time we talked. He genuinely thought he was incapable of happiness, and people who come from families like his don't end up successful. That just breaks my heart, but that's the way he saw himself. And I'm convinced now that, actually I've been convinced for a while, that the role of a psychotherapist, our job is to help people see themselves differently so they can behave and conduct themselves differently. So that's my message for today. All of you out there, it doesn't matter what type of therapy you do, whether you do solution-focused brief therapy or anything else, make sure you believe in people and make sure you help them see the best of themselves so that they can see it in them and it'll change the way they conduct themselves. So I hope you like this video. I'm Elliott Connie. If you want to follow more of my stuff, join my mailing list at elliotspeaks.com or subscribe to my new YouTube channel if you haven't already, and make sure you're helping people see the very best of themselves when they look in the mirror.